And now, guys, he says it's even more loose.
Martin Truex Jr. running good tonight in second. You see him in and around those two cars we just talked about. And right behind Truex, Jimmie Johnson. That would be the battle for third.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmie Johnson right now is the fastest car on the track. So they're making the adjustments the right way. He lost a lot of ground, but right now to the leader, he's only 2.5 seconds back, and after that pit stop, he was over 4 seconds. So he's making up some ground on these guys.
Hard to believe Johnson's riding third after missing pit road on a cycle of green flag pit stops. A testimony to how good the car was prior to that. And here he goes to the inside of Truex for the runner-up position.
And you know, it's funny, we've seen some mistakes from these guys that we don't normally see from the 48 team. You know, mistakes on pit lane and things like that. They're obviously the performance on the racetrack is still been great, but just a slight mistake like that. Fortunately, it happened early in the race, you know, and not late in the race.
Tomorrow afternoon, TBS, the Atlanta Braves and New York Mets doing battle in the National League East. You can see it at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Watch the 43 car here. It gets a little bit up, a little bit, boom, just a little in the wall. And you know what? Actually, there's been a lot of cars like that. I saw a little chink in the armor in the 16 car. And a couple other cars I've seen just some scrapes on the right rear.
Allmendinger looked good early tonight, was running inside the top 10. He's right now in the 16th position. And the Fords, who at one time had 4 cars inside the top 10, now have 2. Carl Edwards leading that brigade.
Yeah, Biffle's kind of slipped back a little bit. He's sitting back in the 10th spot right now.
Showed you Martin Truex Jr. racing a moment ago with Jimmie Johnson for second. Just behind those guys, the battle for fourth. You see in the high lane there, David Rudiman, and right behind him, Jeff Gordon. The back portion of the top 5.
Yeah, watch 29. 29's not even racing for the lucky dog at this point. Because those leaders are just knocking, and you know they're so hooked up right now, and they're putting cars a lap down. A new car's going a lap down almost every lap.
24 cars on the lead lap right now.
And this is, you know, you talk about how competitive Sprint Cup racing is. That's your last week's winner. That 29 car is your last week's winner and led down there and ran up front.
And your points leader.
Yeah, and your points leader and dominated. And here he is, a lap down, you know, 100 laps into the race and struggling. And that's how competitive this is. You can be on top of the world one day, 1 week in this sport, and the next week they don't even talk about you.
Very, very humbling business.
Very humbling.
It doesn't take long. Jamie McMurray started on the pole tonight. It took him until lap 93 before he took the lead, but he's out front now. The sun is setting in Joliet, Illinois. 117 laps complete, and now we answer our Aflac trivia question. The winning driver of each Sprint Cup race receives 185 points. In what other ways can a driver earn points?
Delivering brownies to the booth.
Yes. Yeah. Those are brownie points.
Yeah.
That would be brownie points. That's a good point.
And the answer tonight, a driver earns 5 points for leading a lap and 5 more points for leading the most laps. A total of 195 points for the winner at the end of the night if they can lead the most laps.
For the winner.
For the winner, because they would have obviously led a lap.
I'm not saying anything.
That's good. They're battling for fourth on track. What about Truex, Ralph?
Well, you know, he was struggling to get the car to work in turns 3 and 4. He said, if I could get through 3 and 4, I'd be as good as anybody. Well, shortly after that, Jimmie Johnson passed him. And Wally, Kyle, as you know, sometimes it's good to run behind a guy, because as soon as he got behind him, he started running Jimmy's line. He started running a lot better.
He's right behind the 24 car. I mean, right there, I think Jeff would probably, I would lay over and let him go. I'm not sure what they did on the last pit stop for the 24 car, but he's been sliding backwards. I'm not sure they went in the right direction. Marty did is he happy with the changes? Or?
Yeah, he's happy. He was trying to pass Truex there, actually, and they've been getting better, Wally. They went down on the track bar again. Now that's 3 rounds down today on the track bar for Jeff Gordon, so it's getting better. And the one thing Jeff has learned, as the sun has started setting, he said at nighttime, I think we're going to be a little bit better. So that's one thing we have to keep in mind as well, guys. This track will change as we go throughout this race drastically.
Another group hoping that their fate will change once the sun goes down. Those drivers in the Joe Gibbs Racing Camp. Denny Hamlin carrying the flag right now. The man who won twice in early June, 13th. You see Logano in the 20th position. And Kyle Busch not too far from going a lap down in 22nd. It has not been their night.
But, you know, this year has been a year of streaks. And almost, we started out, and it was the 24 and the 48 dominated the first 7 or 8 races when you look at how they ran on the racetrack. And then all of a sudden, we go from the wing to the spoiler, and it's the Gibbs cars. But little by little, they disappear. And when I say disappear, they don't disappear. They lose that edge that they have for running races.
With the nose, use your momentum.
You know, but like you said, one race makes a difference. I mean, you think you've got the stuff figured out, and then you show up like Harvick does this weekend. And I know restrictor plate's a different deal, but still, you know, those guys have been running good all year, and all of a sudden they're out to lunch tonight.
Yeah, and you see the 48 and the 48 never went anywhere, even though, you know, like I said, reports of his demise were greatly exaggerated because he fell all the way back to 7th in points. But the thing is, he lost so much ground when he missed pit road. He was back in 3rd or 4th position. He has run down the leader. Not that the leaders come back to him. If you watch the times, he has run the leader down. Matt?
KP, it's been a tale of 2 different lines for Jimmy Johnson and the 1 car, Jimmy McMurray. You can see down in 3 and 4, it's shaded. McMurray's running up top. The car is just too tight to run the bottom, but it is starting to free up. Meanwhile, Johnson says when he tries to hustle his car, it starts to snap loose. What they're waiting for about another 10 minutes. Kevin Bonamania reminded Jamie last night in the Nationwide race, when the sun went down, the track started to go up more and more on the free side, and that's what he's starting to see characteristic-wise on that 1 car.
Yeah, just as you were mentioning that, Matt, the 48, you can see the 48's trying everything he can, and he is getting a little bit loose. The harder he drives it down through the corner, the car's just a little bit sideways. And it, you know, it's hard to explain. Sometimes it's so much easier to run a car down, but it's so tough to get around them. You know, especially if they're working the same line. But as you can see, Jimmy, you know, he made all this ground up, and now he's just kind of stuck there.
And we saw that, you know, we saw that almost in that first run, or right after the first pit stop, with the 48 and the 1. The 1 stayed right behind him. He never really gained. He never really lost. Everybody else, but Jimmy has run the 1 car down. You know, it's not that the 1 car on this run after this last round of green flag stops, the 1 car has maintained the same speed.
They started on the front row. McMurray and Johnson are the only 2 drivers to have led here tonight at Chicago. Under caution for the 2nd time tonight at Chicago. Debris in turn 2. You see it just below the white line there. Bad news for Jamie McMurray and Jimmy Johnson, who were pulling away. Good news for Ryan Newman. The first car 1 lap down in 24th will receive the free pass. Last time these drivers pitted, lap 94. We're at 130 now, or we've completed 130. So they will no doubt be coming to pit road. Phil Parsons gonna lead us off on this cycle of stops.
3rd place car of David Ruderman comes down pit road. They're going to take a little bit of air out of both front tires. Still needs it a little bit freer through the center of the corner. Marty.
Jeff Gordon running 4th on that run, said the car is extremely hard to describe and even harder to drive. Slides to the very end of his pit stall. He's on the bottom of your screen. Loose on exit. Big air pressure adjustment and a track bar adjustment this time, Matt.
And Jimmy Johnson, significant chassis adjustment. His car was snug in the center. You can see he was trying to hustle. The car got loose. Also up top, the 1 car, Jimmy McMurray. He said the track was progressively getting more free as the sun went down. Kevin Mannion made an air pressure change in the right rear to try to tighten the car up.
How many times do you see it? That #1 pit stall paying big dividends. McMurray won the pole here yesterday. Jimmy Johnson holding serve as well. He went in second. He makes his way off second. Gordon and Truex the others.